From WLWT, this is the Emmy Award-winning show, Let's Talk Cincy. Presented by Western and Southern Financial Group. Put our financial strength behind you.
Hello everyone, I'm Curtis Fuller and welcome to Let's Talk Cincy. Today a special program focused on the life of Powell and Louis Crosley, innovators and entrepreneurs whose impact is still being felt today. Powell Crosley was a pioneer in broadcasting. The two brothers built an amazing empire in broadcasting and so much more.
Voice of America is America's voice to the world. It started in 1942, right after Pearl Harbor occurred. And President Roosevelt decided that he needed a voice internationally. We did not have an international voice. Most other countries had shortwave broadcasting and had an international voice. We did not. And Pearl Harbor caused it to come about. So this station was commissioned as the first American shortwave international broadcast station in the country. It was located here in Cincinnati because we're central, we're away from the coast. There was a lot of concern about coastal attacks. They weren't sure about German submarines and what they were up to. So they put us here in the Midwest, and we're in Cincinnati specifically because of Powell Crosley. He built a radio empire here in Cincinnati and had already done high power broadcasting. When the agency started and went on the air in 1944, it was the tagline, "Tell the truth and let the world decide." And that's what propagated through the Voice of America culture and still is in place today. VOA had a secret weapon. And when they put the high power transmitters on the air, their secret weapon worldwide was the music of jazz. Jazz is American, it's free-flowing, it represents American freedom. And it was literally outlawed in a lot of different countries because it represented freedom. And in repressed countries, no, we don't do that. So that's how VOA got started. They'd play 50 minutes of jazz, and then they would tack on 5 minutes of news. The news gathering operation was huge. They had like 8 large news bureaus around the world with over 40 reporters in each of the bureaus. And what would happen is, you're right, and it took a lot of time because you'd have to get that information from Africa, Brazil, Germany, wherever the reporter was, into headquarters. During the war, they had to have 3 sources for every story. After the war, they had to have 2 sources, and still today, it's my understanding, they still require 2 sources to validate every news report. We're in the control room for 6 high-power transmitters. We had 6 quarter-million-watt shortwave transmitters that could broadcast around the world. We had target countries to broadcast, and we could put 6 programs out at the same time. In an 8-hour period, we could put out 40 hours of programming and point it in 6 different directions, be it Germany, North Africa, East, South America, etc. And what was controlled here was to take the audio that came in from New York or Washington, D.C., and patch it into the transmitters and adjust it and make sure it was going out all right. And also control we had 27 different antennas out here. We took up a square mile, literally full of antennas, with very narrow beamed, very narrow target, and that was controlled here. So it was a big technical job to get that. When you put a 250,000 watts on the air, that takes a lot to get that done accurately and correctly. In the next room, we have a propagation room. While we do not get technical, we'll explain to you how radio signals can go around the world. WLW-AM, for example, is local in the daytime, but at nighttime, they can go quite a bit at night to Dallas, the Houston area, etc. But they don't go into Germany and Africa. Shortwave will do that. And so we demonstrate how that works to the lay people so they understand that this is really a global voice. In addition, then, we have a room where we concentrate on Powell Crosley's empire. He had a lot of products that were not radios. I mean, he built a huge radio empire. But he had a lot of products that were not radio. He got into the car business. He got into building refrigerators that did not require electricity, shipped them all over the country in the rural areas, and was shipping thousands of them to Africa to keep their medicines cold. On a tour, I will regularly have people that are here because they learned English over the VOA radio, and cause them to learn there was something besides communism, there was something besides punishment for your belief system.
Welcome back, everyone. The Crosley name was marked by innovation. WLWT News 5 anchor Lindsay Stone has the story of how the two brothers became part of a secret mission during World War II.
The story starts here inside this old factory with its chip paint on the walls and busted out windows. This was once the Crosley Corporation. Navy officials arrived here on Powell Crosley's doorstep in October of 1941, 2 months before Pearl Harbor, on a top secret mission to stop the Axis powers.
The Battle of Britain is about to begin.
In 1940, things were starting to look very grim.
It was bleak for 80% of the world, war waging in Europe and in the Pacific.
One of these key questions was how to bring down an airplane effectively.
England was falling to German control, and the Allies had no answer until this little device.
The number 2 top secret weapon, World War II. Number 1 being the atomic bomb.
It was a game changer, and it was made right here in Cincinnati.
They are each other's lifelong best friends.
Powell and Louis Crosley were about as opposite as two brothers can be.
Powell's the older one, Louis the younger one.
Louis's grandson, Rusty McClure, says Powell was a visionary and Louis the engineer. A perfect pairing, which led to household staples and a rapidly growing company.
Ultimately, 10,000 employees, the largest employer in Cincinnati.
Among their many inventions, the fax machine, Crosley car, and refrigerators with shelves. The brothers also put together the first mass-produced assembly line for radios in the history of the world, earning Powell the title as
the Henry Ford of radio.
It's that innovation that caught the eye of Navy officials.
The knowledge to mass-produce radios is coupled with the most powerful radio station in the world.
The Navy tasked the Crosley brothers with developing and mass-producing the proximity fuse, a fuse that detonates an explosive device when it approaches a target within a certain distance using a miniature radio transmitter.
And the assignment is, can you do it? And if you fail, you kind of failed your government, you failed the country.
Crosley Corporation became one of 5 companies tasked with producing the fuse. Losses from the Navy's lack of a usable proximity fuse was the equivalent to a battleship every 3 months, a cruiser every month, and
150 men a day were dying.
The mission, top secret.
None of the people are allowed to know what it is. They don't know what they're building. They are guarded by military personnel with live ammunition.
No pressure.
This is serious.
And the workers behind crafting these powerful weapons?
90% of the workers at Crosley were women, in large part because of small hands and nimble fingers.
Within 2 years of accepting the mission, Crosley Corporation was producing 16,500 units per day. The fuses were picked up in the middle of the night, transported in the back of bread trucks to Lunken Airport, and flown to Allied forces across Europe and the Pacific.
The VT fuses there become highly effective and become the best way to take down kamikaze aircraft like the one that you see behind me here.
Crosley-produced proximity fuses were the first deployed to enemy lines and responsible for the first kill of an enemy aircraft. The world's first smart bomb, produced here in Cincinnati, turned the tide on World War II.
We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air.
British Prime Minister Winston Churchill was quoted saying these so-called proximity fuses made in the United States proved potent against the small unmanned aircraft with which were assailed in 1944. Yet very few knew about this critical device.
The proximity fuse was kept secret from the American public until about a month after the surrender of Japan. So in September of 1945, the curtain is pulled back.
Workers at the Crosley Corporation finally learned about the device they were making.
It was a great thing if you were living in Cincinnati to be associated with this kind of war-winning weapon that nobody had realized was out there.
Two brothers, one empire,
Devotion.
and a Cincinnati legacy nearly lost in time.
This was a significant effort bringing together all aspects of American society to create a secret weapon that has largely been forgotten.
The pressure is enormous to get this thing built, to get it done right, and nobody's ever done it before. Nobody's even thought about it. Nobody's even thought that this would be possible.
From the troops who served overseas to the women who unknowingly made this little device that would save lives and ultimately help win the war. Their contributions never forgotten, nor the city that helped save the world. Lindsay Stone at WLWT News 5.
Welcome back, everyone. Here with me now is a familiar face around WLWT. She is anchor of the Weekend News, Lindsay Stone. And first of all, thank you for joining me here on Let's Talk Cincy.
It's such an honor to be here with you. Thank you, Curtis.
Hey, we just witnessed this story you did. It's a fascinating side of Powell and Lewis Crosley. Yeah. Tell me how you ventured down this road to find out this really almost hidden history.
Yeah, so being born and raised here in Cincinnati, I was very familiar with the Crosley name for baseball fans, Crosley Field, but I had no idea just how vast their influence was on this city. And so in research and conversation with our photojournalist, John Massey, who put together the story you just saw, our conversation came up about this proximity fuse and their impact in World War II. And I didn't know that Lewis Crosley actually was sent overseas during World War I. And so his older brother or younger brother said, you know, come back when you come back and you're safe, let's get to work together. And then they ended up working on a project in World War II. And it was just so fascinating, that piece of history that, as you mentioned, had almost been forgotten. It
truly is an interesting story about the Crosley brothers, yeah, and the legacy. I think we know about it here in Cincinnati. We know a little bit about it in Cincinnati, but the more you read, the more you learn, the more you know. I mean, in talking with the grandson, I guess Lewis's grandson, he's opened up many doors to information.
Oh, he shared countless stories here. The stories really are endless. And what's so special about these two brothers is that their company inspired so many other careers, even the Clooney family. They actually got started. Someone was painting in Powell's office and overheard they needed someone to come on and perform, and that was George Clooney's grandmother. And so just all these fascinating stories and other spheres of influence, you know, happened with them. But the stories really are endless. And as you heard, Rusty is a talker and a good one at that, sharing that with us too.
And he's written a couple of books. Yeah. And imagine if he did not pull this legacy together, a lot of it would have just gotten lost. I mean, I like history, but I did not know this depth of the history of the Crosley history.
And you know what's funny? He actually asked his mom that question, if she knew anything about the proximity fuse, and she didn't know. And so it was really just conversations that he had with his grandfather, Lewis, that he knew about this, and we're so grateful he was willing to share it with us. And it was his wife that encouraged him to write a book. And so we're so grateful all of those people said yes, and now we have this piece of history.
And what's scary is that it was kept secret.
Yes, for a long time, yes.
I was fascinated at the fact that we did not know.
Right. And talk about a high pressure situation. I think our job is stressful with deadlines and things, but think about trying to build this fuse with armed guards standing over watching you. I mean, the pressure was immense, and the timeline that they were trying to build this so quickly, they knew the pressure of, if they weren't able to do this, people were dying every day. And so, you know, they didn't understand the women that were building this, what they were building, but they certainly understood it contributed to the cause. And I think, wow, I mean, the pressure, as Rusty said, was just enormous for this project.
I want to take people behind the scenes a little bit in the production of the piece that you did. I know how much you and John worked on this. But take us behind the scenes, what was all involved in trying to pull this together, because you know, when you put together a story, you have to not only think how you're going to tell it, but how you're visually going to tell the story.
Well, I have to first say again, John Massey, the person that edited and shot the story, was such a visionary in telling it. But it really started with, how do we get our facts straight? I mean, we are journalists. It's important to have a credible piece. So I reached out to the Smithsonian, who had an expert that had understood the project and the fuse. And so I did multiple calls so that I understood where to go with the piece. And then he eventually agreed to speak with us. And so our DC bureau had that interview for us. I also reached out to local experts, professors, college professors who taught history, to get their take. And then, of course, we got inside the Crosley Corporation, which is a building that I've driven by my entire life. It's, you know, has all the graffiti on it. A lot of people pass by not realizing the history. And I wanted to get inside, which was quite an undertaking because it's not up to code. And so we worked with multiple organizations to get it up to code, to get inside. And we had a drone pilot, as you saw, to shoot all of that. So it was, it was months of planning, and a lot of that was educating ourselves. And then for John Massey, it was pulling things from the Department of Defense and visuals to tell this story, because we knew if someone was in World War II, it's so important to get the facts right on this and to honor the contributions they made. So we did so much research, making sure every single detail was correct.
Yeah, well, it was a great piece, a great history lesson for all of us, and I'm glad you were able to tell it, and I'm glad you were able to give us the behind the scenes.
Yeah,
all right.
Pleasure.
Lindsay Stone, huh? We'll be back in a moment. Before we go today, a few final thoughts from the grandson of Lewis Crosley, Rusty McClure.
Pal's the older one, Lewis the younger one. They are opposites. They're about as opposite as any two guys you could really see. Pal is a college flunk out of the University of Cincinnati, and Lewis is a graduate civil engineer. And for those of you who know about engineering and civil engineering, I mean, that's back in the day, it's a slide rule guy who's very deliberate and can figure stuff out and build stuff. Pal is just one of those guys. He can give a speech, he can sell, he's out there. He's just one of those guys, entrepreneur, okay? They are each other's lifelong best friends, and they will become for 50 years business partners. That is unheard of. Most of those things go bad. They really go bad. They are complementary. 2 + 2 = 5. Pal caught the fish, Lewis cleaned them. He did what many younger brothers, number twos, get tired of doing. He was the guy behind the scenes. He didn't make sales calls. He didn't go out, like I said, make speeches. He ran the shop so that Pal could be Pal. No one really wanted to make a day living working for Pal. Pal stood 6'4". He jigged his knee when he sat in a chair. He would make coffee nervous. Pal is one of those guys. Has to be out there, has to be doing things. The steady engineering manager is his younger brother. They trusted each other. There are two kinds of collaborative trust in business. One is, do I trust you not to steal me blind? That's obvious, right? I mean, so if you have two brothers, two business partners, I got to be worrying that you're not stealing from me. No, I don't have to worry about my brother, my best friend, my complementary best friend. The second one is, do I trust your judgment? Very, very important. They started out doing things together here in College Hill. And then they went their own way because one went off to be Powell. He had 10 jobs in 10 years after he decided he couldn't do, or they decided he couldn't continue at UC. Lewis is a co-op engineering student. So he works for the Army Corps of Engineers, goes to school, works for the Army Corps of Engineers, and when he gets out, he works for the Army Corps of Engineers. World War I happens, the Army Corps of Engineers activates him and sends him to Europe, where he's going to be building roads, hospitals, bridges, what the Army Corps of Engineers does, under fire, et cetera, et cetera. His brother finally lands in his own business. He is a partner with Ira Cooper, the Cooper Tire Company, and Powell, being one of these just crazy, smart, innovative guys, adds as his advertising client, Cooper, is struggling with a tire idea, helps him invent what's called the inner liner, the inside tube of the tire. Cooper wants to go build a tire company. He sells it to Powell, and Powell starts building an automobile accessories company, and he can't run it because he's Powell. He's got a grasshopper mind. He's got this nervous energy, and it's just really tough to do the cleaning of the fish. He catches the fish, and this is a story told over and over again. Entrepreneurs get something up, going, and then they have to run it, and he reaches out to his brother. Would you come and help me? He says, I will if I survive World War I. So when he comes back, the Army Corps of Engineers, after running 2,000 people, many of them German prisoners of war, offers younger brother Lewis, the engineer, his job back, building flood and navigation dams on the Ohio River for the exact same money he left. And Powell says, I'll pay you more, and that's when they get in business. Lewis stood behind his brother so unusually supportive that he was invisible to the public. Powell was the face of the business. The people who worked in the factories, they knew Lewis. Lewis didn't get the notoriety. Powell came in a chauffeured Rolls Royce. Nobody approached Powell.
Recently, Powell Crosley Jr. was inducted into the WLWT Hall of Fame, along with Paul Dixon, Bill Hager, John London, and Dick Murgatroyd. Well, that does it for the program today. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you next time for another edition of Let's Talk Cincy. I'm Curtis Fuller. Have a good day and a better day tomorrow.